Okay, let's run.
Your mission, should you choose to accept it.
It's a quest. It's a quest for fun.
Well, The Rock says, why don't we just cut right to the chase?
Okay, now he wants to get together. Well, he wants to talk.
I want you to do me a favor. I want you to tell all your friends about me.
It's showtime, folks!
What are you?
Greetings and salutations. Welcome to And I Quote. This is the weekly show where we introduce you to creators of all shapes and sizes that join us from any and all corners of the universe. We find out more about them by taking your questions. I am your host, Ryan of And I Quote channel, and our guest on this episode is none other than indie artist DJ Wiedrich is in the building. What's up, DJ? How are you?
Doing well, man. Good to be here. How about yourself?
Doing well. Thank you so much for being with us. Now, if you have any questions for DJs as we go throughout the course of this episode, let us know in those comments. Let us know in the chat. More than happy to take those as they come in respectively. And if you're watching this live or on a replay, we thank you so much for being with us. With that out of the way, DJ, when were you introduced to the world of comics?
Oh, man. I mean, comics have been a very big thing, like, since I was little. Like, when I was growing up, there was the Raimi Spider-Man movies that were a big introduction to me to like comic book characters. But the first time I remember reading, like sitting down and actually taking time to read a comic was when I was, I think, 8 years old. There was a library in town we would go to. And this was back in the day, like before you could just stream movies and TV shows and stuff. And so my mom, she would take us to go to the library and she'd look at the VHS and DVD sections of the library and rent out stuff. And there was this back room that had a rack of comics. And I'd go back there and just kind of disappear for a bit while my mom found movies and also just chatted with whoever, would listen. And the first comic that I remember like really being invested in was, I believe it was Superman Batman #7 by Jeff Loeb and Michael Turner. And I actually have like several versions of that comic in my collection in a box somewhere. But yeah, Michael Turner's art with Batman, Superman, Supergirl. That was the issue that she comes down to Earth in that comic run. And from there it was like I was very much invested in these characters for pretty much the rest of my life since then. But yeah, that's when I first really got truly introduced to it and got kind of hooked to comics.
Dude, rock on, man. What better than the world's finest and the Kryptonian's own cousin?
Right.
So,
I mean, and also just Jeff Loeb, Michael Turner. I mean, You can't get much better than that.
There's no argument there. Outside of those names you just mentioned, what are some of your other favorite comic book writers or artists, past or present?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so I'm an artist, so I tend to lean more towards like picking up books for the artists rather than the writers. But there's several writers that I still do love. Like with the writers, for instance, Scott Snyder, love him. Alan Moore, Mark Waid, who I've met a couple times, Jeff Loeb, Sean Murphy, who also does double time with art and writing for a lot of his books. But as far as artists is concerned, that's a whole lot longer of a list. You got Greg Capullo, Jim Lee, John Romita Jr., again, Michael Turner, Sean Gordon Murphy again. Then you got inkers like Scott Williams, then colorists like Alex Sinclair, Jonathan Glapian. There's several artists that I know I'm forgetting to mention right now, but just that's kind of a short list of artists that I pick up on a daily basis or like a weekly basis. Like Jason Fablock is also another one. Gary Frank, Brad Anderson. And again, I'm the type of guy who, when I go and look for comics to read, I tend to look at who the artist is of the book first, because again, I'm a very visual guy. And if you can reel me in with great art and great visuals, then you've got me hooked. I mean, the story could be lackluster, but as long as the art is good, then, you've got me hooked. Oh, Frank Miller. Can't forget Frank Miller too. But yeah, a lot of guys that really inspire me, and then I just love reading their work. I mean, heck, I got Superman Unchained, illustrated by Jim Lee and written by Scott Snyder on the docket to read here this next week. So just, yeah, those are some of the few that I just really love and read.
Oh, you're in for a treat with Superman Unchained. I have the hardcover edition of that. That was a good story.
Same.
I read it.
Yeah, I read it all the time. It's a great book. It's honestly so underrated. People don't talk about it enough, honestly. But yeah, I've read it probably 7 or 8 times now, and I'm still going to read it again just because it's just that good.
Absolutely, good sir. Now you mentioned Sam Raimi's Spider-Man a moment ago, but what are some of your other favorite comic book based movies or TV series?
Ooh, movies. We were talking before the show went live. Man of Steel, love that movie. The Amazing Spider-Man movies are ones that I absolutely love and will defend with my life. The Ultimate Edition of Batman v Superman, Zack Snyder's Justice League, Batman Begins. Let's see, the first Iron Man, Captain America: First Avenger. I try to cover my bases with a lot of like the wide range of superhero content, and also the Spawn animated series. Big Spawn fan, duh. But yeah, those are just a couple that I just absolutely love. And then of course you got the classics like Batman '89, Superman '78, Batman Forever. I'm kind of an anomaly with a lot of Batman fans. I kind of hold Batman Forever in higher regard than Batman Returns, which I have a good friend who is a really big Batman fan. Whenever I mention that, he just kind of rolls his eyes and just like, it's like, you know what, sue me. I like Batman Forever more than Batman Returns. So what are you going to do?
Well, the good news is Batman Forever is a bit underrated. And also it turns 30 next year, which we're going to be doing a movie watch along right here on this very channel that you're watching now. So
Nice.
maybe we'll have DJ on for that one. That'll be a good panel with him on there.
Hey, I enjoy that movie, so I'd be down.
Yeah, we should talk about that. We'll keep you in mind for next year and the season of 2025, respectively. But really good names, really good titles. So you like a little bit of the lighthearted fare, but you're also really in the dark and gritty. So my question is, what are your thoughts on the trailer that dropped somewhat recently with Captain America: Brave New World? Because that looks like they're going back to the Winter Soldier roots, which is great.
Yeah, which whenever Marvel does more serious, that's what I prefer. Because I do like a wide range of comic material. But when it comes to adaptations, the more serious, more psychological stuff tends to appeal to me more, just because I feel like those movies age a little better. But yeah, the fact that they're kind of going more towards the Winter Soldier vibe definitely has my interest peaked. As far as like MCU stuff, like actually, it's funny enough, I'm going to go see Deadpool and Wolverine just shortly after we're done here. But a lot of the MCU recently is kind of, along with a lot of people, it's kind of me slightly burned out a little bit. But that trailer definitely looked more promising than a lot of the recent projects have. But in fact, I blame Thor: Love and Thunder for that kind of burned out feeling for me. But I do like Sam Wilson. I like Falcon. I like him as Captain America. So, and also the fact that we're actually getting Red Hulk for the first time, and it's played by freaking Han Solo, Harrison Ford. I mean, dude, I'm interested to see what they do with it. And I'm also interested to see if it actually starts to kind of build out a overarching narrative, which is kind of what's been really missing from Marvel recently. It's just been kind of a lot of just like solo stories here and there, maybe some small teases to stuff that maybe will happen, maybe won't, but no real overarching idea like you had, of course, with the Infinity Saga. But yeah, no, it's interesting. Again, like he said, I like the idea they're going more the serious route, and I hope that they stick to that for the most part. You can still have some fun here and there, but like stick with the serious tone, because that, in my opinion, is where Captain America as a general concept, both with Steve Rogers and with Sam Wilson, thrives.
Totally agree with you. And if you want more fun, go and see Deadpool and Wolverine. I hear people are raving about it. So,
oh yeah, it's gonna be a fun time. I'm going with a friend who's a big Wolverine fan. I mean, I love Wolverine too, but he's got a lot of like number ones of Wolverine, X-Men, and all that stuff. He's got all these like trading cards, which actually gave me a bunch of the like 90s trading cards. But yeah, so it's gonna be a fun time.
Yeah. For sure. And it never hurts to brush up on your X-Men history by rewatching X-Men 97 that just came out not too long ago.
Nice, which was incredible. I actually just recently rewatched through some of the live action X-Men movies just to kind of prep for it. So
yeah, get the vibes going. I like it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. There's some good stuff in there for sure. X-Men's got some really good runs within the comic book world, and it's also got some good films out there too. So
oh yeah, be
sure to check it out. I look forward to hearing your 2 cents on what is known as Deadpool and Wolverine. That's tearing up the movie Cineplex and tearing up the box office apparently. In more ways than one. With that being said, what made you decide to become an indie artist?
Oof, I don't know if I necessarily chose it, and more just like chose me. I guess you hear a lot of people say that, but I've been drawing my entire life. I've always been artistically inclined. I was either always like fidgeting with like clay or sketching and stuff. In fact, like all throughout school, I always had good grades, but I was always the kid in the back of the class who was just sketching in his notebook when he should have been taking notes. The only reason I had good grades is just because teachers liked me and I was, respectful. That was really it. But I've always been into drawing, but like most responsible parents, after a while, they're like, drawing is a great hobby to have, but be sure to like go into something that'll earn you money, because we didn't grow up very wealthy at all. And so they're like, go into something that'll, make you a decent living, like, maybe go be a doctor or an optometrist. I have an uncle who's an optometrist, and he does pretty well for himself. So it seemed to make sense. And so with that, I went into college with the idea of like, at first I was going to be a political science major, because I had learned some like foreign languages, and I was thinking maybe I could use that for like a government job or something, which, would pay well. Quickly realized I hated the classes that I was in. It felt like it was trying to shove a square peg into a round hole. It just wasn't working. And so I quickly switched to a business major, which is just the major you pick when you don't really know what you want to do. And at the school I went to, it was a liberal arts college. And so you had to take at least one art class while you were there. And so I took Drawing 101. And when I went to that classroom, it was kind of the feeling of like coming home in a sense. It's like, yeah, you belong here. You should be doing this. And so I then quickly, again, changed my major to an art major with a focus in digital illustration. And from there, that's around the time when I kind of started getting back into collecting and reading comics. I'd kind of not really been able to afford comics for a while. And I mean, I still kept up with the movies and everything, but comic reading just wasn't something I was able to keep up with. And so I started getting more comics again, and rediscovering artists I really liked, rediscovering stories I really liked, and characters that maybe I had forgotten about. And, as I was taking a lot of these digital illustration courses, I ended up taking a couple of courses with a professor named Brandon Gonzalez, which if you look him up, he did a lot of background map painting for a lot of Hollywood productions like NCIS, Prometheus. He also did the Hansel and Gretel movie. There's a couple other things that I'm totally blanking that he had a lot in. 42, the Jackie Robinson movie. And his classes were just very much eye-opening to me, and really helped me to understand like there's some things you can do with art that I just didn't know you could possibly do, and just helped me to think more like an artist. Because whenever I was sketching stuff growing up, I always just thought looking at something, drawing it accurately, that's art, when that's part of it. But a lot of it is just understanding how the world around you works, with lighting, with tone, with line width and line depth and all that stuff. And really just helped me, again, think like an artist should. And so now when I'm like drawing a scene or a panel, I'm kind of thinking, well, how would this surface react to the light from here? What would be the texture of this wall? What would be the texture of that wall? How would the glass reflect? Like, you're just thinking about these different things instead of just saying, hey, let's find something that I can copy down as accurately as possible. And I just did a really good job of opening my mind as an artist. And so from then on, I was like, yeah, I want to illustrate comics. I want to do this. And so I immediately went and did my own self-published comics based on characters that my brother and I had created years ago. And they were on Amazon for a bit. I look back on them, and it's very much subpar work compared to my work now. And so it's almost a little embarrassing to look back at them. In fact, my wife eventually, like every now and then, will just bring out a copy and show me like, this is what you were doing several years ago. Look at your stuff now. And it definitely embarrasses me a little bit, but that just showed like I instantly wanted to dive into it. And so since then, I've just been really, pushing myself, studying every single day, practicing every single day. And it's to the point where now I'm doing conventions pretty much every month. And I'm working on a book right now that I'm about, I'd say, I'm doing all the stuff like pencils, inks, and colors. I'm 10 pages in right now. And we just started a couple weeks ago. But that's the long answer to your question of how I want to become an indie artist.
Yeah, no, it's all good, man. Once again, we are here with indie artist DJ Wiedrich on this episode of And I Quote. Don't forget to like and share this with all of your closest friends. If you have any questions for him, let us know in those comments. Let us know in the chat. And if you're watching this live or on a replay, we thank you so much for being with us. So what would you say are some of the biggest rewards about being an indie artist?
Ooh, being an indie artist. So just to preface, I don't have anything to like weigh it against because I haven't been like involved with like the big publishers yet. So I'll just tell you the things I really enjoy is the fact that I can kind of set what I want to do. And especially when it comes to stuff like the book I'm working on right now, the guy I'm working with, Jared, he has a YouTube channel called Comics League. Really cool guy. He really gave me a lot of creative control, a lot of creative freedom. And what's really fun about it too is that going to different conventions, meeting all these different artists, meeting different creators, and kind of seeing what their experience is, how they do things, how they run their individual business, if you will, because I'm not a business-minded person. In fact, the main reason I'm able to do really anything, profit-wise is because my wife is definitely more of a math business-focused person, making spreadsheets and all that, help me organize everything. Otherwise, I'd just be completely lost in how, I'd be losing money every year instead of actually making something. But yeah, no, it's a lot of fun, a lot of freedom. But it's also, there's the struggle sometimes trying to find work. There's a struggle. Sometimes there's periods of time where maybe commissions aren't flowing in, or maybe, you're in between books or something like that. So it's both rewarding and very freeing, but also at the same time, it's like, it's not consistent, right? So that's the frustrating part about it. But, again, I'm doing what I love to do. So can't ask for much more than that.
Well, as a wise person once said, if you love what you do, it's not called work. So.
I mean, that's my dad always told us that growing up. He said, find what you love to do it, and you never work a day in your life. So it makes sense.
Wise people out there, folks. Opposite side of the coin, though, what would you say are some of the biggest challenges about being an indie artist?
Well, kind of like with the inconsistency of work sometimes. Also, maybe being an indie artist, you're not known as much. And so whenever you line up conventions of places that you don't normally go or you haven't been to before, you definitely take a huge risk financially, because for those who don't know out there, artists have to apply and pay for an artist table spot. And a lot of that goes to, paying the celebrities that come in and all that stuff. So there's always a lot more risk with that, being an indie artist, rather than someone who's like, associated with DC or Marvel, or has done a lot of their own work and kind of on their own after like a 20 or 30 year successful career. Like you can have someone like Mark Silvestri, for instance, who's worked at DC, Marvel, who does a lot of independent stuff too, but he's so well known that wherever he goes, people are going to come see him, right? Whereas someone like me, who's still making my way into the industry and, working as hard as I can, but you can only make people know your name so much. It's definitely more of a risk. And there's some conventions where people don't know you. And so it's like, I'm just going to go that way instead of toward that guy. But other than that, I think some of the challenges are, I think there's sometimes where it's hard to stay motivated, even if you love what you're doing. There's times where you can kind of get burned out. So you have to get really good at like scheduling yourself and pacing yourself. Because especially for me, because I work really fast. In fact, that's a main thing going for me whenever I do get into the industry, is that I can pump out work like nobody's business. In fact, I think it was the convention that I met you at, actually, Big Lick Nova. I was right next to Jason Keith, who was a colorist for Marvel for a long time. And him and I were talking back and forth. And I think I did about 2 or 3 projects on the first day of that convention. And he like looked over, he was like, dang, you're ridiculously fast. It's like, yeah, I mean, it's a blessing and a curse. But anyway, I'm rambling, but hopefully that answers that question.
Yeah, no, it does. It absolutely does. And thank you for sharing that with us. And yes, full disclosure, a little behind the scenes story. Yes, DJ and I met each other at Big Lick Comic-Con that was held in the Dulles Expo Center in Chantilly, Virginia, I believe. It was a lot of fun. It was a good show, good people there. I met some really good artists, really good creators there. And heck, networking is important in whatever industry that you're in. So if you ever get a chance to go to Big Lick Comic-Con in Chantilly or Big Lick Comic-Con in Roanoke, which is coming up next weekend. I think it's next weekend, as a matter of fact, August 3rd and the 4th. So let's see he was just on last week. Josh Melvin of Melvin Woodworking is going to be artist there. Yeah, Melvin. Yeah.
I love that guy. Love Josh Melvin.
Dude, his work is nuts. It's insane. Follow him.
Cool.
Dude, follow him on if someone is watching or listening to this and you want to support other indie artists out there, follow at Melvin Woodworking on Instagram, because that guy is a beast. I don't know how he does it. Really. I mean, you can go back and watch the episode. He was on And I Quote more recently last week. So go ahead, check it out, our And I Quote playlist. It'll be one of the current episodes that's listed up there near the top. But yeah, Josh Melvin is, gosh, man, he's a beast.
And super nice guy. Every time we go to a lot of the same conventions, a lot of Big Lick, and so we'll always see each other and we'll talk for a little bit. And what's funny is that we're both big Moon Knight fans too, and so we'll always kind of go back and forth on that, which is really fun. But yeah, Melvin Woodworking, incredibly talented. And what's cool is that a lot of conventions that he does, I don't know if he does it for every single con, but most of them he will find a celebrity or an artist that he really, appreciates and loves at those conventions, and he'll make a little special something for them to get signed, which is super cool. I mean, it's really smart, it's putting your really awesome stuff out there. So I have to take a play out of his playbook a little bit, but yeah, Josh Melvin's awesome.
Yeah, please follow him on Instagram at Melvin Woodworking. Links are located in the description of the episode that contains Josh Melvin's interview from And I Quote. You can find it on the And I Quote playlist. It's all there. Please check that out. Once again, we are here with the incredible DJ Wiedrich here on this episode specifically of And I Quote. Don't forget to like and share this with everyone you know. If you have any questions for him, let us know in those comments. Let us know in the chat. And if you're joining us live or on the replay, we thank you for being with us. So I want to share with you, DJ, and for the person who may be watching or listening to this, some examples of your work. This bad boy here, as they once say, dead or alive, you are coming with me. So what was it like putting that together?
Well, that was fun. I actually have it right here. I can pull it up for you too.
Oh, there you go.
But what's cool about this is that I have a TikTok page, and so I get a lot of requests every now and then. And I had a follower who really wanted me to do a RoboCop piece. And what's fun is that I try to do a lot of both traditional and digital. And sometimes that can be a challenge because especially if you're used to doing digital. So there he is right there. Good old portfolio book. There we go. You can see
Very
that.
Nice.
Yeah. So I try to incorporate a lot of traditional work into my routine just to kind of be sharp in both skill sets. But again, it was a request. And also just like with this one, I really wanted to be messy because I have a very strong tendency to really want to keep my artwork clean. I'm very OCD in that way. It's where I want things to kind of be in their place, clean lines. But sometimes you just gotta kind of have to mess with it, really get messy with it with a black, ink splotching background, flicking a lot of white paint onto it. Like you see, you may be able to see the base here, a lot of just acrylic white paint just splattered on there, just to give it some nice rough texture. And just really forcing me to out of my comfort zone, which is something that every artist should try to do at some point, is just really force yourself to do things that kind of make you wince inside, for lack of a better term, just to make it to where you can grow, get more comfortable doing things that maybe you're not necessarily comfortable with. But yeah, that was definitely one of those pieces where it just felt like it was one I was like, I'm going to experiment with this one, have a lot of fun with it. And it was kind of cool because I had a convention in Michigan a couple weeks ago, and it was near Detroit. And so there's a lot of people be like, oh my gosh, they need to put a statue of this guy up in Detroit. I don't know if I know they petitioned it for Detroit to have like a statue there, kind of like how Philadelphia has a Rocky statue.
That's right. Yeah.
I don't know if they quite have gotten it done yet, but that was kind of cool. Like showing people that are like there.
That would be fun if that actually happened.
Right.
For sure. And then we have another example, a few more examples of your work here. By the way, Diggs BTW1 says, hey, what's up from Twitter to Twitch. And then Nerd Cosa Nostra says,
hey,
what up?
It's my good buddy Sean. What's up, man?
He says, what up? Hope all is well.
I know he's doing well after the Joker 2 trailer came out. He's a big fan of the first film. And I'm excited for that movie to come out because I know he's going to have a lot to say, whether it be positive or negative, because he's just such a fan. Yeah. Love Sean. Much love, man.
There you go. Another example of your work here, if we don't mind. This one right here. Goodness gracious. What exactly are we seeing here? The Tick versus who?
So this is an original character of mine called Vine Lord, which he was featured in one of those comics that I mentioned before that I self-published, and I'm going to have to revisit at some point and redo just because it was not necessarily it wasn't to the work I am doing now. But this is a fun piece because this is actually something that I did for this year's Baltimore Comic-Con yearbook, which every year which is funny. I did Baltimore last year. I didn't know about the yearbook. And then I got there and people were like, oh, is your artwork in the yearbook that you can sign? I'm just like, no, what is that? But every year they do a yearbook and they have a theme. This year's theme was the Tick. And so the Tick is you're allowed to basically make it to where you could either draw the Tick in any kind of pose you want, or have them fighting an original character of yours, or just kind of have fun with the Tick character. And so that was the piece that I did. I drew it all traditionally with colored pencil, then regular pencil, ink, a little bit of white acrylic paint, and white out on the legs to kind of give it that wood bark texture, which is really fun because the Vine Lord character, it's almost kind of like the Mother Nature version of the Green Lantern Corps, if I can explain it in that way. And he's got a lot of very nature-based abilities, like his armor is made of petrified wood that he can extend into like a gauntleted blade. His cloak is made out of like mossy leaves, and he can also like dissipate himself into leaves and fly on the wind, basically. So kind of more alternate idea of how flight works. But yeah, so that's the piece that I did for this year's Baltimore Comic-Con yearbook. So I will have that original piece with me come September 20th through the 22nd in Baltimore. It's going to be a fun time. It'll be my second time doing Baltimore. But yeah, that was a really, really fun piece to do.
Dude, that's really good work. It's excellent, really. It's very unique, I would venture to say. I grew up watching the animated series on Fox Kids back in the day, a little bit of the Tick here and there. Didn't really get really into it. I just watched a few episodes because it was on the lineup at the time, and I'm a huge Fox Kids fan, so I was flipping through different programmings at that time. So
it's a very interesting vibe for sure.
Yeah, it's an acquired taste for sure. The Tick just doesn't. I mean, for me, the Tick doesn't do it for me, but it does have its fan base. I'm not going to dishonor that. So. Hey, if you're a Tick fan, rock on. Whether it's the animated version, the Patrick Warburton, aka David Puddy version from Seinfeld. I mean, there's a million versions of the Tick out there. And here's another one for you. Goodness gracious, you're a massive Spawn fan. So what was it like putting this together?
Oh, this is fun. So this is from a series of pieces that I do. So every morning to kind of warm up, I get in my sketchbook and I do 4 pages, whether it be gesture drawings or working on specific poses, working on anatomy or different textures. I do a lot of also hand drawings just to be better at drawing hands. And so I'll finish each session with a full character, just regular static pose piece. And so this one was from, I want to say 2 months ago now. I was in the early parts when I first got this new sketchbook. But yeah, I love drawing Spawn. He's one of the funnest characters in the world to draw, in my personal opinion. I mean, along with Batman, it's a character my wife tells me that I draw too much, which I just tell her there's no such thing. But yeah, no, I love every chance that I get to draw it. In fact, I don't know if you have this queued up, but speaking of Spawn, I have a fun little thing that's in the works right now. Well, not in the works. It's actually happening, where I did another Spawn related piece. In fact, I'll have to find it. It was an homage to Frank Miller, his work for The Dark Knight Returns.
Very nice.
Where I had him posing on the line like this.
Ooh.
And I loved how that turned out so much. And so what I did is I reached out to Spawn colorist Dan Kemp.
Yes.
Who did a lot of coloring for Greg Capullo's run of Spawn in the issues 80s through the 100s, something like that. I can't remember the exact issues that he did, but him and Dave Kemp both worked on colors for those. And so I reached out to him. And the reason I did this is because I have a friend, Matt Slay, who did artwork for the Ninja Turtles in the early 2000s. And he always tells me, have the audacity to ask, have the audacity to reach out to people, talk to them. And so I was thinking it'd be really cool if I got Dan Kemp, a Spawn colorist, to color this. And so I reached out and he was gracious enough to do it. And I actually have several printed copies ready for the convention next weekend over here on the table.
Booyah.
Might have to let me be really quick and I'll grab it real fast.
Oh, sure. Why not? Why not? Goodness gracious, we've got some incredible works of art here being shown on this episode, man.
I should have just had this ready from the get-go to have ready to show to you.
Hey, things happen. Things happen.
But he got a color for me and he had copies of it at Denver Fan Expo a couple weeks back.
Oh, yeah. Fan Expo. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so I got
big show out there.
Got some of his color work on this print.
Oh,
this is Dan Kemp's colors.
God.
Right?
Can you just shut up and take my money, please? I want one.
Hey, just let me know, man. Let me know. I got 10 here that I got for the show. But yeah, if anyone out there wants one, just let me know. But yeah,
that's awesome.
And we're actually working on another piece together coming up pretty soon. We're wanting to do a Neil Adams Batman homage because I think we're coming up on the anniversary of Neil Adams' unfortunate passing.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, so we're working on that right now. In fact, I can show you. I have it right here.
Yeah, let's go for it.
The pencils for that.
Go big or go home, man. Let's go.
Exactly. So I did the pencils for this traditionally.
Oh, I see.
Right
here. There it is.
And then I did the inks digitally, and Dan is probably coloring it as we speak.
Oh, that's great. I like that.
Yeah. Super fun. Dan
I like that look. Yeah, that's the blue, that's the blue and black type version, right? Yeah.
It's the very classic,
yeah,
blue, gray, yellow logo and everything. Yeah. Very, very exciting.
I look forward to seeing that when it's finished.
Oh, me too.
Please do. Yeah, send it over to me.
In fact, my wife can attest to this. Whenever we got the Spawn piece colored, the entire time I was messaging back with Dan Kemp, I was just I was nerding out a bit. I was fanboying out, just sitting in my office chair, just being I'm messaging back and forth with Dan Kemp about this. Like, holy crap. So yeah, he's been very gracious in working with me on those, and hopefully plenty more collaborations to come. He's incredible. If people for some reason don't know who he is, look him up on Instagram or Facebook. Both Dan and Dave Kemp, just incredible people, incredible artists, incredible colorists, and I can't say enough about them.
I'm gonna have to look up these gentlemen on Instagram and start following them, because my gosh, that Spawn print just looks fantastic. Looks great. And this is coming from someone who's not even listen. With all due respect, I've seen the Spawn movie. I've never seen the Spawn animated series voiced by Keith David, which I hear is great. And I haven't read any Spawn comic books because, like I said, Spawn really isn't necessarily my cup of tea. But then again, I never really gave it the full, because all I know from it is Michael Jai White's movie that no one likes to talk about, even though it has its own cult following.
It does.
With all due respect, it does. It does have a cult following. There's some fans of it out there. And listen, the movie's corny and cheesy as all get out, because that's what the 90s were towards the end of it. But you got to admit, John Leguizamo's clown was funny. And then the other thing was when he looked at that one woman before she gets killed off and says, "Where you're going, every day is Halloween." I mean, come on. That's a excuse me for saying this, but that's a badass line within itself.
It really is.
It's Michael J. White saying it. He's a badass. The guy's a badass.
Yeah, and they're working on a new Spawn movie now called King Spawn. They announced the title.
Oh, really? Who's going to be in it? Who's the main lead?
They've been working with Jamie Foxx.
Yeah, he's been rumored to be playing the new Spawn for a long time, though.
Yeah, I don't know if it's actually going to work, because I know he had a lot of health issues recently, but
yeah,
we'll have to see.
I don't know if he's going to be able to pull that off, but we'll see. I mean, Jamie Foxx is a capable actor. I'm just saying that I don't know if he's the right person to play Spawn, but then again, Jamie Foxx has surprised us numerous times.
He's got range.
He's got serious range. So, I mean, he has every talent in the world. He could definitely pull it off. By the way, once again, this is, and I quote, even though we're going off a lot of tangents here, and I quote with DJ Wiedrich on this episode, do not forget to like and share this. And if you have any questions for him, let us know in those comments. Let us know in the chat. And if you're watching this live or on the replay, we thank you specifically for being with us. Now, Nerd Cosa Nostra has some questions here. He says, which artists have inspired your style, and how do you keep your skill set growing?
Oh, man, I love that question. Again, Sean always has fantastic questions. He joins our podcast we have almost every week, and great guy. But as far as artists that inspire my style, I'd say the biggest influence on my actual drawing style more recently has been David Finch. David Finch, for those who are like striving artists out there, you'll know that he has a lot of tutorials online, a lot of great tutorials on like anatomy, structure, perspective, rendering. And like, honestly, at this point, I watch his videos kind of like how I would take a college course. I just digest it every single day and like go through the different practices that he has. And he definitely influences how I draw muscle structure, how I render. And I think he's been very influential to me. I tried for a while to incorporate a lot of Greg Capullo's work or style into my work, but I love his art style, but it just doesn't necessarily flow with me, which is kind of sad, because like you want to be able to draw like your heroes, right? But there's some time where you kind of have to realize that's not necessarily the style that's natural to you. Whereas David Finch kind of more aligns with what I naturally want to do, and I'm more naturally prone to do. So David Finch, definitely. Jim Lee a little bit. I don't necessarily go as like Roman-esque with my features on my characters' faces like Jim Lee does, but definitely a lot of influence there. So yeah, David Finch, Jim Lee, and a teeny bit of Greg Capullo, as much as I can fit in with it still feeling natural.
Oh, there you go. Makes sense. Thanks for answering that. And once again, Nerd Cosa Nostra has another one. He says, which character do you feel has the most range to be recreated into various iterations, I believe is what he said, or various interactions?
I honestly think, and this is just the fanboy in me, I think Batman has the widest range. Because, I mean, you look at his filmography already. I mean, you have the Adam West TV show, very, light, kid-friendly, jokey, cartoonish, basically. Then you have Batman the Animated Series, then you have Batman 89, then you have Batman Forever, then Batman and Robin. Then, of course, you have Super Friends. You have the Batman Animated Series, Batman Beyond. And you have the different live-action films that have been. I mean, we've seen him in all sorts of different scenarios, whether it be him being very isolated, very psychological, or just being in a group of a ton of people with the Justice League and the Bat family. A lot of different interactions where some are more serious. Then you have some where it's more jokey. And like you had the Lego Batman movie, for goodness sakes. I mean, we had the Ultimate Edition of Batman v Superman and the Lego movie within a span of like a year.
Yeah.
That just shows the range of Batman. You go from like very psychological, dark, gritty Batman with Batfleck to Will Arnett's, I don't want to do that, like joking kind of like version of the Batman character. Again, I just
first try.
Yeah.
Because he throws like 30 million of them at the button.
Yes. My favorite though with Lego Batman is when he's like in the mansion and Alfred's like saying he's got to go to a party. He's like, no, I don't want to do that.
I don't do parties.
But yeah, I think that just really makes the most sense as far as characters who can have a wider range, because we've seen it from Batman. I mean, whichever one is your cup of tea is a different story, but yeah, exactly. So that's why I think it's Batman.
How do you feel about the latest one with Pattinson, The Batman? How do you feel about that one?
I loved it. My wife and I, and that's the first Batman movie that my wife and I agree on loving.
Really?
Yeah.
She doesn't like Batman 89?
She's okay with it. She prefers more of the animated stuff.
How can you say no to Michael Keaton in that Batmobile, man?
I don't know.
Come on. I mean, have you ever danced with the devil in the pale moonlight? Come on.
She didn't necessarily grow up with that movie, so the nostalgia isn't quite as strong in her as
Dude, I have so much nostalgia. That movie just turned 35. We did a movie watch along of that a couple weeks ago. You should watch that footage. It was so much fun.
Oh yeah, we'll have to do that. But
you should.
Yeah, we loved the Batman. We saw it in IMAX.
Nice. That's the only way to see a movie is IMAX.
Yeah, that was the first movie I ever saw in IMAX. Was the
Batman.
Ooh,
you must have been blown out of your seat, man.
It was awesome, and we ended up seeing it another time in theaters, which stinks. The second time I saw it, at the time I was working a factory job and really long hours, and
that's no fun.
We went and saw it with friends at 10 o'clock at night.
Oof.
And it's a long, slower paced movie, which I love those kinds of movies. But when you work the factory job all day and it's 10 o'clock at night, movie. Yeah, I unfortunately fell asleep in the theater, and that's not a bad testament to the movie. I was just exhausted.
Yeah,
but we rewatched it a lot, and I have the steelbook of it.
There you go.
It's funny because I'm a big Batfleck fan, and so I was already very kind of jaded by the fact that the Batman was supposed to be Batfleck's solo movie.
I would have loved to have seen him write. What was he was supposed to write, produce, direct, and star in it or something? Like it was going to be freaking nuts.
Yeah, even Jay Oliva, who directed the Dark Knight Returns animated films, was like, dude, yeah, that script was awesome. But so I was jaded about that, and I was also really like, I was one of the people who was very much not really convinced of the casting of Robert Pattinson when it first happened. In fact,
yeah, I was shocked. I was like, really, we're going to get a sparkly vampire to play this dude?
Honestly, we were in the car. My wife and I, we were on a long road trip, and it was her turn to drive. And I was just sitting in the passenger seat looking through my feed, and it was like Robert Pattinson cast as Batman and Matt Reeves the Batman. And I kind of sat there looking at like, I don't know how to feel about this. And then, of course, when the suit was revealed and everything, I'm just like, okay, I'm getting more and more on board with this. And then we saw the movie and it freaking blew me away.
Yeah.
And I am really looking forward to seeing what they do with the Penguin show.
Oh, that's coming out soon too, I believe.
Yeah. And they're starting filming the sequel. I think this next year is when they're actually going to film it.
They're taking way too long for this sequel.
Yeah, it's a lot of it has to do with the leadership turnover at WB
and the strike. And the strike.
Yeah.
It was a huge problem. Huge problem.
Yes. But honestly, though, like if they take their time, make a solid sequel, that's fine.
Well, it's always better, as a wise person always said to me, you can't rush art. So you got to make it right? So you got to make it work.
It's a good Toy Story 2 reference.
It is. There you go. See, that's where I got it from. I've known that for 25 years. Thank you very much. You just blew my reference out of the water. But hey, listen, it's Matt Reeves. It's Robert Pattinson. It's I think was it Andy Serkis? Jeffrey Wright. You got all those guys thrown into the mix. And I'm thinking to myself, yeah, you got Caesar from Planet of the Apes to play Alfred. Are you freaking kidding me?
Awesome.
Like the guy nailed it in the first one. I'm very curious to see what he's going to add to the proceedings in the second one. And I got to be honest with you, and this is one of the things I love about Hollywood the most, when they do it right, of course, because they don't always do this. When Hollywood casts someone that is so unlikely to pull it off, you think to yourself, there's no way this person can do it. But it happened back in the day, 2008's Dark Knight with Heath Ledger as Joker. Nobody thought not many people thought that kid could have pulled it off the way he did. And look what we got. We got the most terrifying, sick, twisted, freakazoid version of the Joker we've ever seen in live action. Not counting Mask of the Phantasm in animation, because when it comes to Mask of the Phantasm in animation, that is the most terrifying version of the Joker I've ever seen in animated form, voiced by the incredible Mark Hamill, no doubt. But when you go fast forward to 2008 Heath Ledger, you're thinking to yourself, we got like some of the best villains in history. So
yeah, and then also like Michael Keaton when he was cast as Batman, he was
no one thought he could do it.
People were
No
like,
one
"What do you
thought
like? Beetlejuice as Batman? What the heck is this?"
What is
And
this?
then he just knocked it out of the park for that time period.
First 2 minutes, he pulls that guy by the chest. I'm Batman, and we're like, "Yep, that's Batman."
Yeah.
Like that's it. And then when he yells the magic words to our friendly neighborhood Vicky Vale, "Get in the car." Which one? Dun, dun, dun. Like the Danny Elfman score cues up, and then you see the Batmobile. That's the greatest Batmobile of all time. Nothing is going to top that '89 car. That car is so good.
It's a dang good Batmobile. Car. It's classic.
I want that car, man. I want it in my driveway soon. I want it now. Do it now. Anyway, I digress. Once again, we are here with DJ Wiedrich on this episode of And I Quote. He's an indie artist, even though we're massively talking about a little character known as I'm Batman here on the show. Don't forget to like and share this with everyone you know. If you're watching us live on a replay, we thank you for being with us. And this, goodness gracious, it's been a blast. So my next question is, have there been any special memories for you from being at conventions, whether you were there as a vendor or there as an attendee?
Ooh, okay. So special memories. I mean, man, I'm just trying to there's a couple. So last year at Baltimore Comic-Con, I got to meet Klaus Janson, who of course is very well known for inking The Dark Knight Returns, also doing a lot of Daredevil work with Frank Miller, and just a comic legend in his own right. Got to talk to him for several minutes, got a signed print of his packed away in like a box somewhere. But yeah, Klaus Janson, meeting him was just a dream come true. I mean, his ink work just defined a lot of comics for me. And then also, I mentioned this to you before we started the show, that I did SpawnCon last year, which was held in Denver, Colorado. And there they had Thomas Healy, who is editor at Spawn Comics. Got to talk to him. He actually bought an art piece of mine, which is really cool. And then I got to meet Jonathan Glapion, who is most well known for inking a lot of Greg Capullo's work, especially when it comes to New 52 Batman. Also a lot of other, I'm trying to think of the other things that he inked, but he's mostly well known for inking Greg Capullo. He's actually working on a book right now called No Home Here with Daniel Henriquez. But yeah, I got to meet him, and he actually gave me this really cool SpawnCon exclusive mini print that was actually ended up being a cover for one of the latest Scorched comic issues, which is really cool because I got it signed by him and I got it framed again in a box somewhere over there. Meeting him, Chance Wolfe was also there, who worked a lot on early Spawn. And I'm hoping this next Baltimore Comic-Con, Jim Lee's supposed to be there. So that'll be another memory in the making, which he was at the Baltimore Comic-Con the year before I was able to go. He didn't end up going last year, which royally stunk. I was like, dang it. Then briefly meeting Chris Claremont, who of course was the very much the architect of a lot of X-Men that we know and love today. I mean, he basically helped spark all of that. And I only briefly got to talk to him just at the after party of the first day at Baltimore Comic-Con, but that was incredible. And oh gosh, I'm trying to make sure that I don't skip over anybody that I met. That was just absolutely incredible to me. One person that was really fun that I got to meet a couple times was Samantha Elaine. Samantha Elaine, she was the first actress to portray a stormtrooper in Star Wars, and she has been in a lot of Star Wars over the past 6 or 7 years. I think she was either in all of or 2 of the 3 sequel trilogy movies. She was in Andor. She was in, I think, The Mandalorian. And I've seen her at a couple different conventions, an absolute sweetheart. She signed a couple of photographs for me of different scenes in Star Wars. And we also got to hang out with her quite a bit at Baltimore Comic-Con last year. Just a lot. And John Beatty recently, again, at Big Lick Nova. He was also at the Michigan convention that I was at. Got to see him again, say hey, I get to go up to John Beatty and say, hey, good to see you again, right? And them actually recognize you, oh, hey, I remember you. Oh, I'm important enough to remember, But yeah, cons are really special, especially when you get to table at them and do the different after event parties and stuff, and do the drink and draw events. And those are just the ones that on the top of my head that I can think of.
Dude, that's really cool. You got to be the first female stormtrooper in the history of the Star Wars saga. You have to send me her Instagram profile there. Is she on Instagram by any chance or no?
She is. Yeah, she is.
All right. Gonna have to look that up. You're going to have to send me some links here in the behind the scenes area, or the DMs. Slide into those DMs there.
Yeah,
by the way, Yeah, Nerd Costa Nostra has another question. He just keeps firing them away. Elevator question. You're in an elevator with your favorite artist of all time, and you have nothing but 30 seconds. What question do you ask that person?
Oh my gosh. Okay. So obviously the favorite artist would be Greg Capullo. He's my number one guy. I collect everything of his that I can. If I had 30 seconds to ask him a question, oh shoot, can't even think of a question in 30 seconds. There'd be so many. But my main question would be I'd hopefully have my portfolio with me, show him a couple pieces, and ask him, where can I improve? Because that's the big question you always got to ask. Where can I improve? What can I do to be a better artist based on what you see in my work here? And because, again, getting that professional feedback is amazing. Like, for instance, last year, little humble brag, I got to have a portfolio review with Todd McFarlane, not in person, unfortunately, but over Discord. You got to look at my work and talk to me a little bit. And he gave me some specific advice on like anatomy, line work. And then what's funny is that a couple months later, I did Baltimore Comic-Con, and a editor for DC Comics, her name's Brittany, I forget her last name, which I feel bad, but she was doing reviews there too. And I was the first one in line. And when she reviewed my work, she gave me the exact same advice that Todd McFarlane gave me, almost verbatim. And so it's like, hey, I know exactly what I need to work on right now because I've gotten it from two reliable sources. So again, I'd show my work, say, what can I improve, or what ways, or how can I be the best artist I can be? What steps do I need to take? I guess is the best way to put it.
Ooh, good stuff, man. I'm digging it. Man, you're on fire today. I'll tell you, this episode has been lit, as one might say. Well, I want to let you know that this episode and every episode of And I Quote is indeed powered by our very good friends at Poddex. Now, Poddex are unique interview questions as well as episode starting prompts in the palm of your very own hand. So whether you are a new podcaster or existing broadcaster, like our friendly neighborhood DJW here, looking to grow your audience or get more engagement, you're going to want to check out our friends at Poddex.com. Use that promo code RYAN10, RYAN10 for 10% off your first order. Poddex wants to know, what was the most memorable class you've ever taken in school or college?
Ooh, that would probably be art history, which sounds really boring, which if you don't teach it right, it can be, if we're being honest. But I had a really great professor, Professor Crawford. She had this really amazing note-taking technique, and she like explained the whole process to us at the beginning of the semester to let us know, like, hey, this is how this works. This is why it sticks in your brain this way. You know, you write all the notes beforehand, then we talk about it point for point, and that way it beds itself into your mind. And so I learned more in her 2 art history classes than I did any other course in my entire life. It was absolutely incredible. A lot of great insight into a lot of classic art, imagery, symbolism, how things worked with what these painters were thinking, the context in which they were painting. And it was just a very memorable course. And I was actually able to take one of those semesters with my wife. So it was kind of fun. We were able to share notes and everything, and able to experience it together. And we both, in fact, just I think yesterday we were talking to somebody and we brought up Professor Crawford's art history course. And she, again, just an incredible professor, an incredible teacher. Not to sell short any of my other teachers and professors who may or not be watching, but great people. And Professor Crawford was just a very memorable one for sure.
That's awesome stuff. If you were a bartender, which famous person would you like to serve?
Ooh, it's funny. There's actually been a bartender,
but
boy. Never many famous people. Famous person would I like to serve?
Henry Cavill.
That'd be pretty cool. Although I mean,
if you were sitting in a room with Henry Cavill, come on, man.
I have a feeling that he'd be like, it'd be kind of hard to pull a conversation out of him because he seems like more of a quiet, reserved guy. Maybe. Depending on if you get
he's a big nerd too, so
that's true. You get him talking about like Warhammer.
Yep.
That'd be pretty cool.
Yep.
Although mine would probably be Zack Snyder. I mean, I've met him before, and so like I just would know like things to ask him and talk to him about. Yeah, no, I think that'd be really, really cool.
All right, I gotcha. Good stuff. So which magazine would you like to be on the cover of?
Ooh, it doesn't exist anymore, but Wizard magazine. I mean, that'd be sick if they revived that, just to have me on the cover and then they're done. That'd be pretty cool. For years, it would have been Sports Illustrated, just because I was really into sports as a kid. My dad was a coach. There was a while where I really wanted to play either college or football or basketball, but that just wasn't in the cards for me. But man, I'm trying to think. Is there any like comic-based magazines now that like? I know there's DC Direct. They have their own little magazine they do.
Yep.
Which they don't really have people on the cover of that. They just have like artwork announcing different books.
Yeah.
But we'll just say it's an alternate universe where Wizard Comics is still a thing. So
Okay. It's cool, man. We can leave it at that. What's the most annoying bill you have to pay?
All of them? No.
Does anyone like paying bills? No.
No. Does taxes count? I feel like taxes should count.
All right.
Yeah, taxes. No. Property value tax or anything like that. Property tax? No.
Okay. It's fair enough, man. No one likes paying bills. So we all got to do adulting sometime.
Yeah.
Which is very unfortunate. I wish we could all just stay 25 and be friends with everyone and not have to worry about something called money. You know, if we lived in a perfect world like they do in Star Trek, you know, where money is no object, they just build stuff because they want to build it, and they go into outer space because they want to, not because they're being paid to do it. The world will be a much better place.
Yes.
In the 25th century, or 26th century, whatever century that Star Trek takes place in. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Specifically TNG with Picard and Riker and all those guys, the men and women of the USS Enterprise.
Yeah.
Make it so. If you could bankrupt one person or even a company, who would it be?
If I could bankrupt them? Man, this is malicious.
I mean, if you want to bankrupt Wayne Enterprises, go right ahead. No, I'm kidding. You can stick to a fictional company if you don't want to get in the real world.
If I could bankrupt. Oh, man. See, this is hard because like I don't want to be malicious to anybody, but
you can always say, "Hey, I'm a nice dude. I don't believe in negativity."
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go with that answer because there's no one that I hate that much. I try not to hate people, but there's no one that I hate to that level that I want to see them bankrupt. You know.
All right, that's right. Hey, listen, Poddex was just curious, but you don't have to answer the question if you don't feel comfortable answering. It's fine too. You can always say pass and move on to something else. Well, on that happy note of pathing and moving on to the next road or the next road trip or the next Comic-Con, we want to take this opportunity to say thank you to DJW. You know, I thought the acronym of RVD, if you're a pro wrestling fan, was really cool, but DJW is a nice, name/acronym there too. So DJW, DJ Wiedrich, thank you so much for being on this episode of And I Quote. We appreciate you being here and taking time out of your very busy schedule of going to conventions, entertaining millions of people around the world, and then you're going to see Deadpool and Wolverine in 5 minutes. So with that being said, if someone wants to know more about you and maybe purchase one of your lovely pieces of artwork or maybe catch up with you at a convention, where can they find you on social media, my good friend?
Yeah, absolutely. So Instagram, I'm at DJW32Art, and Twitter, I'm at NIMW32. That's from my old YouTube channel. I still haven't taken the time to change that name. So it's NIMW32. I'm also on TikTok at DJWArt32, I think, or just DJWArt. Not hard to find on there. And of course, YouTube, I have a weekly podcast with a group of friends of mine called The Four Nerds. It's on the Four Nerds Network. In fact, some of you might be watching it on that channel right now as we speak. And as far as conventions, I think, Ryan mentioned that next weekend, I got one in Roanoke, Virginia called Big Lick Comic-Con. And we got a lot of great names coming there, a lot of great actors, a lot of great artists. A couple of really good friends of mine. We mentioned Jason Keith in this interview. He was at Big Lick Nova. He's going to be there too. Be good to see him again. We also got Matt Slay, good friend of mine. Again, he did a lot of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles back in the early 2000s. And yeah, a lot of great creators. And that's where I'll be. I'll be able to present some stuff I'm working on, including pages from a book I'm working on at the moment called Athena, Goddess of Thunder. In fact, just to kind of show off, I got some of the original penciled pages here. I'll just give you a little glimpse because I don't want to spoil anything, but here's some of what I got going on. Some of the more static panels of some of the early parts of the story. Yeah, you can come and see me and see some of those pages. I'll have hopefully 11 or 12 pencil pages available to look at there. And then after that, I got Soda City Comic-Con in late August. Then early September, or I guess late September, I got Baltimore Comic-Con. Very, very exciting stuff. Very excited for that. And as far as my artwork is concerned, I do have a website. It's djwart.com, and it has the portfolio section as well as prints for sale section. And it has a lot of my work that's for sale. It doesn't have every piece that I've done. There are some prints that I do have that aren't on my website. It's either, I got to like go in and make sure I add them. But I also sell a lot of my original work, which a lot of that just works through just simply going through social media. I also have Facebook. You can find me at DJ Wiedrich or DJW Art on Facebook. And a lot of the original pieces are just available if you message me saying, hey, I want such and such piece, and, work that out there. But yeah, so like Ryan said, very busy working on a book, got a lot of conventions. And as always, I guess thanks for having me, Ryan. Appreciate it.
That was a lot of fun having you here, good sir. We're going to be talking to you here again real quick. My name is Ryan of And I Quote Channel. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at RyanRPM5. Follow us across all forms of social media, I should say, at And I Quote Channel. And I Quote is going to be on Saturdays, 12 p.m. Eastern Time. Movie watch-alongs are going to move to Fridays at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, 3 times a month. And starting next week, the first Friday of every month, we're going to be doing special episodes of this series that we've been putting on hiatus for a long time, but we're bringing it back. The Meaning of Fandom is going to return on Friday, August the 2nd at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. We're going to have a new group of panelists. They're going to be sharing with us what a particular fandom or character means to them and why. DJW, we're going to have to get you on the Meaning of Fandom here in the future, my friend. You got some really good stories to tell. And maybe you have a particular character or fandom that you may want to discuss with us and go crazy on, man. Yeah. So with that being said, thank you all for being here. We are attempting to reach 5,000 subscribers before the end of the year. So help us do that. Once we do, we're going through a great big live stream celebration. It's going to include special guests, returning favorites, and some special giveaways that you, our incredible viewers / subscribers, are going to be eligible to win, but only when we reach 5,000 subscribers. I will inform you that we have reached over 1,100 subscribers this week. So thank you to each and every single one of you for making that happen. We cannot do this without you. This is a family. This is a community. We like to support each other as best we can. Remember, indie supports indie. And one more time, like, comment, share, subscribe, ring that bell to be notified of when our videos go up or they go live. And also remember that life is better when supporting indie creators and small businesses. Take a look.
Famous Faces and Funnies in Melbourne, Florida is leading the way in pop culture fun. From comic books and graphic novels to Funko Pops and collector's items, Famous Faces and Funnies has it all. Rick Shea and the professional team at Famous Faces and Funnies are friendly and knowledgeable. Whether you're looking for toys, props, collector treasures, or a new comic book, Famous Faces and Funnies is your one-stop shop. To find Famous Faces and Funnies on Facebook and Twitter, just type at FFF Comics.
Good morning. Oh, and in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.